Hello, everybody, and welcome to World Edition. I'm Nick Pallavita. I will not be your host today because Mark Lee will be here very shortly. But in the meantime, we have an interesting clip from one of our commentators in California, Jeff Ahern. So we're going to show that right now, and then we'll get back to the World Edition. Just a minute.
Hello and welcome to Newsday with Jeff Ahern. I'm your host, Jeff Ahern. Today's top story. As an olive branch to liberals, I've created a list of 10 things that if you implement, will guarantee to make your 2023 the best year ever. First, stop wearing a mask. COVID is well past the point of being remotely fatal for most people. So stop with the virtue signaling. The Democrat bumper sticker on your car is plenty. You don't also need one for your face. Second, if things in your community keep getting worse, stop blaming the party that's not even in charge and stop voting for the one that is. Third, trans male athletes have no place in women's sports, period. Or if you can't have a period, you have no place in women's sports. That doesn't mean you can't identify as female, but you no longer get to swap out being a mediocre male athlete for a record-setting female one. Fourth, don't be angry when free speech is returned to places like Twitter. Be angry you are okay that it left. Arguments that can't stand in the face of facts are meant to fall, not to be propped up in a fact-free vacuum. Fifth, get woke, go broke is not a possibility. It's a promise. Sixth, there are two sexes, male and female. The rest are reindeer games. Just so we're clear, reindeers also only have two sexes. Seventh, if you really want to end racism, be an American first. You'll never end racism by making each and every decision based solely on race, or for that matter, voting for a party that does the same. Eighth, admit Joe Biden does not have the mental capability to lead a song, let alone our country. I don't know who is leading this country. All I know is their name was not on the ballot. Ninth, when it comes to education, you help kids by raising their standards, not lowering them. And if you think minorities can't meet the most basic educational benchmarks, then it is your inherent racism that is holding back their inherent intelligence. And 10th, though it really should be number 1, everything is not racist. And if someone tells you it is, see rule number 1. And lastly, treat common sense as a dear friend, not a mortal enemy, and refuse to vote for anyone or any party that tries to tell you different.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Steve Rao. I'm here for a few minutes today. I'm about to go into a press conference on an issue that I'm going to practice today in my monologue with you all. But first of all, I want to welcome you all to Pod and Roku TV's World Edition. We greet you live from the All-America city of Morrisville in the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina, the 8th largest state in the union. Before I begin my monologue, just a couple of things. That was a very interesting thing. Hopefully we can talk about that. Missile attacks this morning in Ukraine, 5 dead. Russia fired 81 missiles. Many people are concerned about the problems in U.S. weapons manufacturing. We're going to talk about that. The Justice Department just released a very damning report on the Louisville Police Department after Breonna Taylor was killed in a botched police raid in 2020. There's been a lot of unconstitutional policing and really concerns about, what's going on with some of these police departments. President Biden will unveil his budget proposals today. Expect plans to increase pay for federal workers, expanding child care, family leave, and Medicaid. This might be the beginning of his 2024 reelection campaign. Looking forward to new battles on the floor of the Congress and the Senate. And of course, looking at how this affects the presidential race or whether Joe Biden will have any other primary challenger. I think he already has one. That's all I'm going to do today. One interesting topic I found was that there's 21,000 pieces of plastic in the ocean for each person on Earth. That's a lot of plastic. So, got some concerns about our clean environment. So real quickly, here's my monologue. I'm going to be speaking today to one of our major news stations about immigration. And as I've said always, there couldn't be a better place in the country, actually, to show a broken immigration system than North Carolina. It's particularly the Research Triangle Park where I'm at. We have a large number of immigrants from India and many from China. And during the tech layoffs, what really jumped out at me was I've been receiving a lot of WhatsApp messages and text messages from immigrants on skilled H-1B visas. These are immigrants that get one of the 65,000 skilled visas. There's another 20,000 They go to university, people studying at the universities. There's about 20,000 international students in our university system in North Carolina that produce about 720 million in our economy. And these skilled immigrants are employed in many of the fields of technology, pharmaceutical, life sciences. What's interesting is that 18% of all STEM graduates are foreign born, mostly from India. 35% of software engineers in North Carolina are all foreign born, mostly from South Asia. And what is interesting is that if we accelerated the path of citizenship for these individuals, we could actually yield $1.9 billion of taxes, but our GDP would be lowered by 7.5 billion by not letting these immigrants stay. Now, here's the challenge. The messages I've been receiving are immigrants losing their jobs. Now, most of us, when we lose a job, we can actually go back, get a severance package, take time. But time is definitely not on their side. The law of the United States says that these immigrants have 60 days to find a new job unless they can find a new sponsor. And if they cannot, they are then deported back to their country of origin. Now, a couple of concerns. During a global crisis and a labor crisis, when we need as much global talent, these immigrants actually do help us fill many of the jobs of today and the jobs of the new economy in artificial intelligence, data, analytics, science. Point number two, the young children are being displaced. Some of these immigrants, in addition to having dreamers, kids that are coming here, documented dreamers that are here because their parents came in legally and then their visas expire, they have to leave the country as well. So they're disrupted from school. The third point is, I was asked by the news last week about what would they do if they don't find a job. Well, my answer is start a company. For every company that we create 6 jobs. Last year in North Carolina, we incorporated 93,000 jobs. That's about 450,000 jobs. Imagine if we encourage these skilled immigrants to stay, we could create a lot of jobs yielding revenue. As I close out this message, we often forget that 44% of all Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants. Zoom, Yahoo, Google, to name a few, were founded by immigrants. So even Nordstrom's, Best Buy, and Colgate. Now, the challenge is, how do we streamline our immigration system to allow those here legally while preventing millions and millions of refugees to come across the border? I believe there's a confusion between immigration and asylum, and I think it's time for the U.S. to do something about it. This is why I'm going to Washington next week, in 2 weeks, to work with congressmen and senators on a bill to extend the grace period to maintain status for H-1B workers to 6 months. My fear at the end of the day, and my final thought, is that Canada and other countries are welcoming these individuals into their countries. They have realized that what has made America competitive could be their greatest advantage, and that some of the best and brightest minds in the world will go to their countries. Justin Trudeau is actually making it easier by telling people in California, come to Canada. We want you to work in our country. That, I think, is bad news for us in the United States, but maybe for you around the world, good news. Let's get started. Today we have with us, I'm going to only be on for a few minutes, Nick Paudiva, please join us. Mark Lee. Okay, great. And Lee Rhodes. And sorry for the long-winded monologue. I just was practicing a little bit on some of my data points.
Good morning, Steve. Steve, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The people who come in here, lose their job, they have 60 days to go. What if in the meantime, previous to the 60 days, they gave birth to a child on American soil?
They have an American. They have an American citizen. Ta-da.
And therefore, Nick, they're allowed to stay?
Yeah. Well, the child would.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess they could because they're born in the U.S.
I mean, isn't that part of the whole conversation around the Dreamers? Because the Dreamers actually were folks that their parents were from overseas, whether that was Mexico, whether that was Venezuela, or whatever. But the kids were actually raised in the United States.
They weren't born here. There's a big difference. They weren't born here.
I think
They weren't born here.
That's a good point. So, and I wonder whether the law. Hey, maybe that's a good thing to my law is get pregnant, and then if you have a viable pregnancy, you gotta stay. That's a darn good point. How about right there? But the reason I was making that point before we get into I want to get into what I have to leave in
Lee,
5
you open a
minutes,
can of worms.
Maybe we should patent it as Pod TV, and
Well,
do
first of all-
counseling for people.
Let's start with Sasha Starr on Ukraine, because this was breaking news, the Russian missile strike. Sasha, can you update us quickly? We'll come back to immigration later. I'll be on PBS tomorrow. And then today, Mark, I want you to talk about the other issues, but let's start with Ukraine. And then before I leave, I'd like to get insight on that video, although I know there's a lot of people on the show that actually might agree with what he's saying, and too bad Shaquille Latimer couldn't be here. But I like the way he delivered it, calm and nice and reasonable, kind of like Dan Worthington.
He actually has a show on the Pod
Yeah.
TV network.
But Sasha Starr, Ukraine, tell us what's going on. 5 dead, Russian missile strike.
Okay, there were a heavy bombing with missiles and warplanes attacks on several Ukrainian cities just last night. So far, I think it's 11 killed and a lot of people who were unfortunately injured in these attacks. And they're using certain missiles for which Ukraine has no response. I'm not sure that even United States have the means to deal with this type of missiles, so-called Kinzhal in Russian. And it's all really based, the success of Ukraine is basically based, as we know, on the Western, not US weapons to be delivered. And the speed of the delivery is very important to why Ukraine could start their counterattack sooner, or unfortunately later. There were big discussions about the nature of this war, whether it's going to be a few months before it will end, or a few years, or maybe 10 years or 15 years before it's over. That again depends a lot of NATO and US supplied weapons to Ukraine. If there will be supplied very quickly and in necessary quantities, then the war could be over before the end of the year. And if not, then it can definitely drag on for a number of years, 2 years, 5 years. I really have no idea. So that's where we basically are. And you can make your own assumptions about where we are going with all that.
Wow, this is just amazing. Just as a seesaw here. It doesn't look like it's coming to an end anytime soon. But I think they're going to be interviewing Zelensky again next week on some news networks. And,
it was yesterday a big interview on CNN at 9 o'clock. I was watching. Unfortunately, the translator was not really.
Oh yeah,
sharp.
I was watching basketball last night. I'll probably have to go get that on the repeat. It's probably online, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but it was interesting interview.
Well,
And
let's go back. I got to run, but real quickly, let's talk about the video. We're going to come back to Ukraine. And for those of you who know, Sasha Starr also has a show on this, Ukraine and China, along with some other shows, but definitely
tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, more at 11 o'clock. Real quickly, well, I got to leave for my press conference, but tomorrow will be live from PBS. Happy Women's History Month to everybody. And we'll continue to talk about these game-changing remarks. Maybe we can have some guests next week. Real quickly, this video, quite intriguing. I got to say, I like the delivery, calm, reasoned.
I'm sorry, Steve, what video?
The one that just saw, the one at the beginning.
Oh, at the beginning of the podcast, okay.
Yeah.
I
I like the way he delivered it. Calm, measured, made some of the points that I know some of our panelists agree with. I will say that I agree with the race thing. I think that we need to try to find areas where we have common ground. And I don't think it's good to go into every conversation just with race on your forefront of our mind. But still addressing that there are racists out there and there are bad apples. But we just have to make sure that we're navigating through that. In terms of Joe Biden, I don't know. That's what some people say. We'll see whether he runs again or not. By the way, he's got some interesting plans on the budget. No surprises there. Dipping in to spend more money. I know the Republicans like Dan Worthington must be, you're actually, maybe you're happy. He just,
He's an idiot, you know. He doesn't get it. It's sort of like, it's the economy, stupid, right? It's like Bill Clinton said all those years ago. It's the economy, stupid. Why do you keep sabotaging the economy on purpose? You know, are we trying to destroy?
Dan, there's another expression. It's not his money. It's other people's money. What does he care?
Well, then he doesn't care because he's lived off the government tit for 50 years. He's never had a job.
Well,
He doesn't
folks,
care.
I'm going to go smile for the cameras here in North Carolina. Hope I look good. I practice with my
Look,
team.
go
now.
smile
Oh,
for
you
You look great. Just smile.
Your tie's
Hey,
straight, you're
hey,
smart.
Take a leg.
Thank you, guys.
Nick
Break
and
away.
Lee and
See you
everybody,
tomorrow,
there was
okay?
an interesting,
Take care,
interesting
Steve.
article that I just found that I think people will find interesting as well. But it actually comes to a point that I think you have brought up, Lee, and I know definitely Steve has brought it up a couple of times. But apparently, there is a group that is saying that democracy's global decline has hit a possible turning point, and that was actually reported in Axios. So they're saying that democracy has declined around the world for the 17th consecutive year, but the pace of that decline has slowed, and we could be approaching a turning point, according to an annual report from an organization called the Freedom House. So the rise of authoritarianism and the erosion of democracy have been among the most notable global trends of the past decade. So the Freedom in the World report suggests those trends continued in 2022, but it also found cause for optimism. Countries like Colombia, which I know that I think that Kim Calhoun of our founders is a big fan of because she's visited there and loved it and everything. Kenya, which I know Barbara H. Smith and others have loved. I think even
And
Shakira.
that's where Obama was born.
And Malaysia saw peaceful transfers of power following contentious elections, while several countries that had cracked down on free speech and assembly during the pandemic loosened those restrictions. So they're saying that there's a worrying decline in 2022. There are also multiple coups in West Africa, and leaders from Peru to Tunisia attempted power grabs with varying degrees of success. So they're saying the scores of 35 countries declined, while those of 34 countries improved, and that's the narrowest gap since the global democratic downturn began in 2005, according to the Freedom House. And they even measure what you're partially free and free, because Colombia and Lesotho moved from partially free to free, while Peru dropped to partly free, and Burkina Faso to not free. Finland, Norway, and Sweden.
Yeah, in America, where are we, buddy?
Finland, Norway, and Sweden all received perfect scores, while the least free countries and regions were North Korea, Eritrea, which I mentioned before, Turkmenistan, South Sudan, Syria, and Tibet. The report also ranks China and Saudi Arabia among the worst of the worst. So what do we think?
That's probably true.
So we move into it. Oh, by the way, the report, you asked where the report finds the U.S. to be less free than 59 other countries, on par with Panama and Romania, and far below G7 democracies like Canada, where Sasha is, or Japan.
Well, we had a coup in 2020, so that explains that.
So what do folks think are these ideas that we're becoming a more authoritarian world, true or not? We do see what's going on there in Russia and Ukraine, but definitely I was just wondering what folks' thoughts are, because they did a whole Freedom in the World.
Where's Russia in the list?
They did not put Russia in the list. That is a good question. But
That's weird. Yeah.
About 2-3 years ago, certain things we were not allowed to discuss in company, on social media. We were not allowed to discuss masks, whether they worked or not. We're not allowed to discuss the virus, where it came from, the lab leak. We were numerous things we were not allowed to discuss. Now all of a sudden we're allowed to discuss these things. What changed and why?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, and I don't know.
Well, you see, they'd hope
By the
we'd
way,
forget about it.
By the way,
It wouldn't
Dan,
make any
Russia
difference.
is ranked number 16. I did find Russia because you can scan over the map and it will tell you.
Are they
Russia
among the
is
worst or the best?
They're in the less free. So they
Okay.
are
Well, that's
they
cool.
are not number one in that category. Apparently, they're number 16.
I'm going to answer Lee's question.
Yes,
See,
go for it.
what they were hoping was that we would all forget about it. See, everybody's known all along or suspected that the leak came from China. Everybody. It was obvious that the left tried to hide that. The media tried to hide that. They've been trying to hide that. Everyone knows, including Fauci, that masks don't work. Everybody, including Fauci, he said it. They don't work. And the reason they don't work is because they're not good enough. Unless it's N95 or better, or you could seal it around, it's not going to work. And so everybody knows that. But but it was part of the government propaganda to wear the mask, and it was a sign of our white shame, right? That's why we had to wear it, because we had to wear it because we had to be submissive.
Dan, it wasn't just whites, in fairness.
It's oh yeah, everybody's shame. We're all shameful because we're Americans, right? But
But it
this,
wasn't just America
this
that was wearing
virus,
masks. Masks were all
wait
over
a
the place.
second, but this
That is
virus,
true, Mark.
You're right. This virus was created in the United States in a Carolina lab with the funding from Obama and Fauci's involvement. Gates was involved. All those people were involved. It was taken to China, and because of something about the law in the United States, funded by the United States and China, then deliberately released at an opportune time to the world, including thousands and thousands of Chinese who were infected, came over when they knew they were infected, and started this thing and to destroy our economy and the world economy, and to change the dynamic that was being created politically and financially by the United States and the West. So, I mean, it's really not, there's no surprise here. It's just that we have the people on the left, and I'm not sure who their alliances are. It's not to the United States, and it's not to the sovereignty of our great nation, right? You have the people on the right who mostly love the United States, love freedom, love liberty, and that kind of thing, right? And so and the mask mandate, all that stuff flew in the face of all that. And so here we are, and now we know kind of what the truth, which we expected, kind of suspected all along.
Dan,
But you're not addressing the question. Why did the paradigm change? Why is now we're allowed to discuss it?
Don't know. I mean, that's weird, isn't it? That they suddenly decided that it's okay because I think, and we're seeing, and also the video on the on the January 6th
Right.
was released, and we're seeing the truth, and suddenly all the crap that the left threw all during 2001, 2002, all that crap is dissipating and showing the BS it was. And, free-thinking Americans, people that have eyes to see and ears to hear, are beginning to see that this was all set up, right? Why? And it took this long because Congress had to be controlled by the Republicans for some of this information to be released.
Dan, you're talking about eyes to see. It's amazing. They're actually telling us now, don't pay attention to what you see in the video.
Yeah, don't pay attention to that.
Just
Don't
listen
watch
to what
the
we've been
reality.
saying, the narrative over the years.
Sasha's been arguing all along. Well, just watch the video. We are watching the video, Sasha, and it was mostly a peaceful protest, mostly peaceful. There were a few bad actors, and that's what the media was focusing on, is the bad actors. Most of those bad
No one's condoning that, Sasha.
most of the bad actors were FBI-related actors who were there to play a role. And
Where did you get this information?
it's
Just
on
watch the video. Sasha, it's clear the police were opening doors. They were
it's new
escorting people in.
videos.
They were letting them walk by.
It's new
Even
video.
No
the
attempt
shaman.
to stop or to arrest.
The shaman, they were escorting. They could have arrested him. They could have stopped him. They were all there, kind of politely walking him through and helping. In fact, he even thanked them.
Dan, are you aware that more than 1,000 people were arrested?
Oh, I know, but they're political prisoners, Sasha. They're political prisoners.
That is not true. They're not political prisoners. The thing is, the problem is there were about 1,000 people that were right-wing extremists. And there were 1,000 people who were just curiosity seekers and people that were just walking through.
Well, there were tens of thousands of people there.
Yeah, but if you listen to the tape, which we had to do this on Lawyers Den, Trump actually said peacefully protest down to the Capitol. That's what he said.
It's
Oh,
one
yeah.
phrase out of hour
He
and a
said,
half.
but what happened is, and this is where Dan is correct, the media had selectively taken tapes and cuts to feed
Yep.
the American public the narrative that they want. So that part, Dan, you're absolutely correct.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
You're absolutely correct, because we reviewed their whole things on Lawyers Den, and I was going, what are these people talking about, and why is the media feeding us stuff It's because that's what they were doing. It fed their
Well,
agenda.
no, the left
Yeah,
had this
yeah.
had this thing all figured out in advance.
Yeah, well, that's what was going on. But was everybody there
Pelosi's
innocent?
daughter had a
No.
cameraman there, right?
No, there were a lot of
Nick,
those.
everybody there was not innocent, 100%. But what the public is entitled to is who moved the barricades, who unlocked the doors from the inside, but who let these people come in innocently, not knowing that they were not welcome,
That's correct.
as if it was a trap.
You're,
Who let the dog out? Who? It was a trap. It's exactly
it was
what
a trap. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was deliberately set up by Pelosi to make it look like an insurrection by the Democrats. It was deliberately set up. The FBI agents were there and embedded. It was all set up to make it look like an insurrection. It never was. It never was.
And we spent
Dan,
way
this-
too much
Dan,
time
this
on
may
it.
surprise you and everything,
Hearings that were
but
not balanced. I mean, it was just
Dan, this may surprise you, but
farce was the
hasn't that been a
entire-
problem historically speaking? Because
Yes,
FBI
yes, it
and
has
the
been a problem
CIA
historically.
have been
You're
involved
right.
in a number of
They have.
conspiracies,
they're
and it's not just been against the right; it's been against the left. It's been
And you
against
know, the FBI director has not answered a single question to Congress, and have been accountable on this issue, and refuses to disclose the FBI's role in this effort. But it was a Democratic engineered campaign to discredit President Trump and his followers and those who were celebrating liberty and freedom. Very
Some
few of
that
those
were-
people.
some that were
Very few
celebrating.
of those people
Not
were
all.
actually involved in any violent attacks or in any violent activity. It was mostly a peaceful protest, as they would say.
Really?
And some of the
Mostly.
people were actually Antifa and other elements that were there just to create problems, Sasha. And so now the evidence is overwhelming that what I am saying is true.
No, but Sasha has a point, and Sasha, everybody agrees with you. Those that committed violence should seek the justice should seek, them. They should have
Yes,
the
and
day
I
in
agree
court.
with you, Sasha.
No one disagrees with you, Sasha.
Then may I ask you
They should
one
be.
question? So the all white Trump appeared on this rally is to ask them to protest peacefully. That's all
Yeah.
what he done, and that's why he took effort from the White House to come over there to say, "Please protest peacefully. I love you all."
No, actually, he
Oh,
actually said that
what he said?
in public. Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't there, and I don't know, but that's
I
what
was
the video
watching
shows.
that in real time. He was spoken for almost hour and a half. And that little thing that I asked you to protest peacefully, it was only one sentence out of 5,000 that
It
he
was at the end of it was at
He
the
was
end of the
inciting
talk,
people to move on the Capitol. He was
No, he wasn't.
masterminded all the scheme. All his people paid for buses,
Okay,
for
so
lunches to
Sasha-
bring
So,
people
Sasha,
from
now you're
Boston,
overstating.
from Virginia,
Now
from
you're
everywhere.
overstating the case.
It's a
Sasha?
conspiracy of
You're
Donald
overstating the
Trump
case.
and
Sasha?
his helpers. That's all what there is to it. And very soon,
One second, Dan.
You're
to the
overstating
bottom
the
of it.
case.
Sasha?
You're Canadian, and why do you
Yes.
care?
Okay, Sasha, let's go with your theory, okay?
Sure.
Of those people who went from the Capitol over to the Capitol building, okay, from the speech, and they went to the Capitol building, went in the Capitol
Whoops, what
building.
happened?
How many of those people put masks on to disguise their faces? How many people brought weapons? How many people? Let's be honest about it.
I don't care. They all moved to the Capitol building in order to take it over and to derail.
No weapons.
There's no evidence of that.
There's no.
Come
we
on.
don't know that was the reason they went over to the
And that
Capitol.
woman that was
He
murdered.
said we want to
was
go
no
over there and
reason for that.
peacefully protest. Neither side, especially when the politicians are the ones that are being the judge and the jury,
Yeah.
are being fair and impartial at all about this. I mean, and that's the problem I had with the January 6th hearings. I was going, this is not in law, you're looking for fair and impartial judges and juries, and that wasn't what we were seeing.
Nick,
No.
did you
So,
see?
so the left fed theirs, now the right is feeding theirs, but we're not.
Yeah, and with video evidence.
Pictures when
Yeah, well,
congressmen
they
and
cut a lot of
congresswomen were hiding. They were fighting for their lives. They were also.
Well,
there
Sasha,
was
If
an
they
element-
would find them, they would
Sasha,
be all killed.
What they're pointing out.
Sasha, did you see the video? Were the police fighting for their lives? They were standing there,
Oh,
schmoozing.
I saw everything in real time on January 6th as it was happening. So
No,
I saw
you didn't.
everything.
No, that's
No,
not true, Sasha.
media
saw
wanted
what
to
they-
be
you
so-
You
saw
saw
what
a
they wanted to
slice.
show you.
Okay?
You saw a slice what they
No,
wanted you to see.
no, in real
You
time.
see, the sad
It
part.
was
The
all
sad part
shown
is
in
they-
real time what's happening
sh-
minute by
No,
minute, and
You saw
note
what
that
they
it was
wanted to
redacted.
show you.
Yeah.
It was shown as it
Thank you,
was
Nick.
happening. Okay?
You suckered into what they wanted you to see.
No, but you want
Yeah,
Cameras
man.
are amazing what they can show
accept
you.
the
Listen,
real
You're
picture,
Canadian. Why
okay?
do you even care?
I
mean,
saw
it's
the
like-
real picture, and
Yeah.
no interpretation of anybody, whether it's CNN or Fox News or anybody else, will do even a thing, even
It's
one.
the video. Just watch a damn thing.
I don't care
Dan, you-
about media. I
yeah,
saw it
yeah.
in real time, everything what happened as it
Well,
was
the
happening.
media.
So I don't need videos. I don't need
See,
See,
anybody.
Dan,
media
those are the
played
videos
you
they didn't want to show
what they
you.
wanted you
No,
to see.
I saw Trump's speech for an hour and a half. He was trying to get people up and rising and run to the Capitol. And only at
That's all
one
he was
point,
doing.
during 10 seconds, he said, "Oh, by the way, do it peaceful protest." Come on, this is all a joke. Trump was masterminded all that even before he lost election.
He wasn't smart enough to
He
mastermind
lost
all that.
election, but he knew that he was losing. So he
David?
was masterminding. Well, maybe this will work. No. Maybe that would work. No.
What, Lee?
Recount. Oh, doesn't work. Go to
you have a question, Lee?
courts.
Yeah,
Oh,
I did.
doesn't
Wait
work.
for Sasha. You mentioned before the FBI is not coming forthright and open in terms of in the hearings. They're not answering questions. Does Congress have the ability to unfund the FBI? So either you start talking or you get no funds.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
So why aren't they doing that?
They should.
What are you
It's
talking
IRA,
about
too.
FBI? It's a different subject. You want to talk about FBI? Have a talk about FBI, but it nothing to do with the Trump's big lies, conspiracy.
Actually, the FBI did have a lot
Misconduct,
to do
okay.
with.
But wait and see. It's all coming. It's all coming to a
Yeah,
head.
it's all coming.
Wait,
Sasha, you do agree though that you agree that all the videos should be made public, correct?
I'm not talking
Of
about
course.
video. I'm talking about real time January 6th
Okay.
events as they were shown during the day. I don't need videos.
Oh,
please.
you're talking about the selective video that was shown by the press.
I don't care about the video shown
Well,
by
I mean,
the
it's sort of
press,
like the
whether
same
it's
video that's
CNN or
shown
whether it's
in-
Fox
in
News, or
Oklahoma,
I don't
Michigan,
care. I
where
saw it
things were
all
burning
in
the
real
background,
time.
and they were
That's
saying
all.
this are mostly peaceful protests.
No. Come on.
We have a quick,
It was nothing but
controversial-
peaceful protest at all.
We have a
Sasha, did you see the
controversial
video of the Trump speech? Not of him speaking, but of the crowds. Did you see the video of the crowds listening to Trump's speech?
Yes, of course.
Were they peaceful
No,
or were they violent?
they were violent, and most of
Oh,
them
they weren't
and
violent.
most of them had weapons. Come on,
Capitol.
they brought weapons on the
Don't do that
Trump.
to yourself.
Trumps insisted that I know these people, let them in, and all of them had weapons.
Sasha, there's a caveat with my question. Not at the Capitol. At the speech itself, was the crowd rowdy or was the crowd peaceful?
Did you see it or no? I don't know. What are
Yeah,
you
I saw it.
talking
I was there. It was
What?
peaceful.
Oh, you were there?
I was there January 6th by the speech, not by the Capitol.
Oh, what's happened? Why did you stop at the speech? Why didn't you go on the Capitol?
Because he knew
I
it
went
was
time
a sucker.
restrictions, whatever. And I'm glad I didn't go because I probably would have gone in the building had I been escorted in. I'm very lucky I didn't go.
Whoa, you were actually there, Lee?
Yeah, I got pictures and video if you want to see it. I was actually there at the speech. I didn't go to the
You wanted
Capitol.
to see it? Are you kidding me?
Did you
The
enjoy
answer
the
is,
speech? Was it
hey,
was
Lee,
Trump?
Lee.
I wasn't in the front lines. I was closer towards the memorial or whatever. But I was there. You could hear them.
How did you get there?
Peaceful.
How did you get there? How did you drive?
I
there?
drove.
What?
I drove. Cars are allowed in New York and Washington. And then you
How
park
did you
and then you walk.
How did you know that there would be a meeting, a speech of Trump, and all that
It
stuff?
was publicized
Where?
Yeah,
all over the media.
he's the president of the
Really?
United States.
Wow.
For crying out loud.
Wait,
So
wait,
some-
Lee,
so
you
if-
actually have video? You have your own video? Can we get that? That's first.
You can. I can show you Nick off air. Yeah, sure.
Send it to us. I mean,
I can show you what I got.
like,
I didn't take the whole thing or whatever. I got pictures and some whatever.
Yeah,
but,
whatever
yeah.
you got.
I tried to live stream, but I think they shut down the video that day. I didn't have it was weird. They shut down service. I don't know if it's just me or other people. I couldn't live stream it. My phone wasn't working, but I took pictures and stuff.
Wow.
How?
Wow.
I had a cell phone with me.
Yeah.
So I was able to take pictures with the cell phone, but nothing else was working. I couldn't call people. I couldn't text.
Okay, so it would only.
They had it blocked.
I see.
They had service blocked.
Yeah. On
Yeah.
purpose.
Well, we definitely want that. That's like firsthand information about this.
Exactly.
You're like an
We got-
eyewitness on this.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That'll
that's the
elevate
thing. Most
whatever
of the
you got.
people who support Trump are not crazy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be run again. I think he did a good job when he was president. Had good policies and that kind of thing. I know you hate him, Sasha. I don't have any vitriol against Trump. I think his personal skills are horrible, and he was divisive, and so that's my beef against him. But I think most of the people that were there were freedom-loving patriots, people who love America, love the Constitution, love support American flag, support the troops. Those people are patriots. They're not left-wing nuts that we have in the Democratic Party, who have been trying to take away our freedom and trying to destroy the individuality and autonomy of American people, destroy our businesses, destroy our economy, destroy our energy sector, all the things that they've done deliberately over the last 2 years, right?
Only
Now,
two? What about before Trump?
And before that. So the Democrats' policies are always anti-business and harmful,
Nick,
right? They always are.
Hold on a second, because one of the
Republicans
leaders
aren't
of the
exactly,
one of the leaders
pristine
of the
either,
civil rights
because when they
movement
were in
actually,
control,
Legion
spent a lot
Rhodes
of
may
money
actually
too.
like some of his
Oh, wait,
views,
let's-
and actually I've known him for a while, but that is Reverend Barber. And I think if you look at the Poor People's Campaign, he is actually looking at a lot of issues that folks would call family values.
there's more where that came from.
Really?
Say what?
Yeah. We want to take a look at these because you got firsthand videos on this.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Oh, we
Sasha,
got to
you're
see each
being
one
unfair.
individually, though, Lee.
Yeah.
Because
You're
I
being unfair.
understand.
We have an eyewitness here.
we got an
And-
eyewitness.
and,
Eyewitness,
you know, I know-
Dan and I know that's.
This is
really-
not the Capitol building, okay?
I
This
know,
is just a
but
speech.
before
Has
they
a law.
moved to the Capitol
He was
building.
like, he's like
You have what they call a
who were
first
there,
hand account.
Sasha.
Yeah.
He's a true patriot, and he saw what he saw. You weren't there. You saw what the media wanted you to see.
No, that's not true, Dan. First of all, you can find Trump's speech on January 6th on many resources, and you can see it all in its entirety.
Lee, you were there. Was he
Okay.
inflammatory? Was he trying to get?
There was
people-
nothing there inflammatory. There was nothing there to get me to say, you know what? Cancel your plans. Go over there. Riot, violence, nothing.
No. What he said is, if you want to have your country, you have to fight as hell. How is that bots with peaceful protests?
But
Can you
Schumer
explain
says
Sasha,
that
how
all
you
the
protest
time.
peacefully and fight as hell at the same time? You tell me.
Sasha,
Yeah, okay, so how many of those?
Do you have a problem with the word fight?
Yeah,
Do you have a problem with the word fight in a political context?
right.
If you do, you got a problem with a lot of other politicians who say when you have convictions and you have a conscience towards a country, you fight for what you think is right. It's not necessarily mean
Was lost.
The only gun that was
Trump
fired
lost
that day was
election.
never that one.
Political fight was over. What he wanted to do, he
No, it
wanted to
wasn't.
derail
Vote hasn't been certified
the
yet.
transfer of power, and that was why the meeting was. What else happened on January 6th? There
Sasha,
was
you
a
Had not happened yet.
certification.
The transfer of
of-
power was not complete.
There was a certification of the Senate and President primarily. So what they were trying to do with this demonstration, the so-called peaceful protest, is a derail certification. That's why.
Sasha, we have two lawyers on the panel here, Nick and Dan. Why do we have courts?
Hold on. They
Yeah,
were
no, the certification process.
after
has been
Mike
disrupted
Pence.
before.
They wanted to hang him. There was a hanger already
Process.
built in.
The
So that was
certification
going
process
to
has
happen.
also been
People were
interrupted by
Fighting
Democrats
the
before.
senators and House members, they were fighting for their lives. So you have
Oh
to
God!
not
Yeah,
to
right.
see it, okay?
I'm sorry. Did anyone even see a news today?
Listen,
With
listen.
Gallows.
All I'm trying
was not one
whatever
attack
listeners we
on a
have here,
single
to at least
legislator.
appreciate exactly what's happened on January 6th. You can be blind and you can be stupid and you can say anything what you want, but at least some people will listen what exactly happened.
Well, I mean, you can look and see what
There was an
happened.
element. You can't subscribe the whole people, all the people like that, because there
No.
was a small element that was like
And
that.
there wasn't any.
Because
not one
otherwise
single-
Lee would be guilty, and all he did was go and listen to his speech.
Okay, so there wasn't
Yeah.
one single person there, legislator, that was attacked. The only person that was, the only gunshot fired was in the face of a woman who was there,
Unarmed.
military officer who was murdered by a security.
Capitol Police officer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the only shot that was fired. Nobody, that's the only person that died from that day was her, because he got over excited and shot her in the face. That was murder, and he should have been punished for that, because
There was not even a trial.
Yeah, he wasn't. No, and so this is the problem.
How many
you know-
policemen were dead that day and maimed?
None.
None.
Zero.
Policemen were maimed and they were taking several months to recover from that day. So there is no much difference between being maimed to such a degree that they had to for months go through rehabilitation and take medical care and all that stuff.
Did you have this passion for BLM marches where police officers were killed?
Yeah,
Corpus?
many.
Do you have this passion for that?
No.
Why not? So many innocent police officers were intentionally murdered,
By these crazies.
blinded, maimed, and you don't care?
Well,
He didn't care.
No, it's
He
not.
doesn't
It's
care.
not the case. The violence in the United States is second to none, and almost every
Oh,
day
yeah.
there are
You
massive
Canadians are
killings, there
perfect,
are
aren't you?
policemen being killed, and there are bystanders and school children, or just name it. So what makes one case is different?
Tell you
from the
what,
other.
we'll send all the
Not much.
crazies up there so you guys can deal with them. We don't want them.
Well, I think this is why I think there is a point in the fact
Trudeau wants the Californians. Let them have them.
Oh, speaking of which, we have our controversial clip that we were discussing that apparently a lot of people haven't seen, but we're going to show that right now. So now you can
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Newsday with Jeff Ahern. I'm your host, Jeff Ahern. Today's top story. As an olive branch to liberals, I've created a list of 10 things that if you implement will guarantee to make your 2023 the best year ever. First, stop wearing a mask. COVID is well past the point of being remotely fatal for most people. So stop with the virtue signaling. The Democrat bumper sticker on your car is plenty. You don't also need one for your face. Second, if things in your community keep getting worse, stop blaming the party that's not even in charge, and stop voting for the one that is. Third, trans male athletes have no place in women's sports, period. Or, if you can't have a period, you have no place in women's sports. That doesn't mean you can't identify as female, but you no longer get to swap out being a mediocre male athlete for a record-setting female one. Fourth, don't be angry when free speech is returned to places like Twitter. Be angry you are okay that it left. Arguments that can't stand in the face of facts are meant to fall, not to be propped up in a fact-free vacuum. Fifth, get woke, go broke is not a possibility. It's a promise. Sixth, there are two sexes, male and female. The rest are reindeer games. Just so we're clear, reindeers also only have two sexes. Seventh, if you really want to end racism, be an American first. You'll never end racism by making each and every decision based solely on race, or for that matter, voting for a party that does the same. Eighth, admit Joe Biden does not have the mental capability to lead a song, let alone our country. I don't know who is leading this country. All I know is their name was not on the ballot. Ninth, when it comes to education, you help kids by raising their standards, not lowering them. And if you think minorities can't meet the most basic educational benchmarks, then it is your inherent racism that is holding back their inherent intelligence. And 10th, though it really should be number one. Everything is not racist. And if someone tells you it is, see rule number 1. And lastly, treat common sense as a dear friend, not a mortal enemy, and refuse to vote for anyone or any party that tries to tell you different.
You have to send me that clip, Mark, please, and email it to me.
Watch the
Yeah,
Jeff
yeah.
Ahern show on our
Yeah, Jeff
network
Ahern
every
show
Friday
every
at
Friday at 1
what
o'clock.
time? 1 o'clock.
Thank you.
Friday at 1 o'clock, and he's actually
Friday
out
at 1
in
o'clock. Right.
California and everything.
Mm.
Two
Yeah.
things he said, and actually we have regular conversations because I produce that show as well. That I don't know that I necessarily agree with. One, it wasn't just Democratic cities that put in mask mandates. The mask mandates were done throughout, and there was definitely both Republicans and Democrats that opted into that system. And I know quite a few folks, both Republicans and Democrats, as well as, black, white, purple, green, whatever other colors you might want to think that are out there and everything, that were not exactly pleased with the mask mandates and are not even convinced that we needed to have those plans put into effect. And they are very upset that those plans went into effect. There's even some folks that are not too thrilled that their friends who got the vaccines and things of that nature, and they might be arguing the scientific facts because of personal experiences that they had and the ways that they were impacted and everything in that way. And as for the testing, that's the other thing that hold on a second. As for the testing, that's the other thing that I am doing during the course of the day and everything. And there are things that we have to be cautious about in terms of bias, whether it is racial bias, whether it is class bias, or a number of other kinds of biases that can exist. So we do have to be cautious about that. That's one of the things that we are taught in our training regularly, is to be aware of our own conscious and or unconscious bias and to try to grade according to what the rubric is and not let the bias get into our thought pattern. But that is easier said than done.
The truth about the mask being effective or not has come out, but the New York City mayor, Mayor Adams, has asked stores not to let people in who are wearing masks because shoplifting has got out of hand, and obviously people are wearing masks not for therapeutic purposes, shall we say.
Right. I mean, and another thing about the mask that I have argued about, and actually one of the articles that I was going to bring up and everything, is that the masks have added to unintentionally, and I can tell you from right around Durham, if I was to step outside, and maybe not in the apartment complex, but if I was to go near the bus stop and around the restaurants and everything, I will see hundreds, if not thousands, of masks laying around, and that adds to the pollution that is out there as well. And that is one of the other articles that I was going to bring into question and everything, because apparently there is not the mask, because the masks, as far as I know, are made of plastic, but there is a rapid and unprecedented rise in ocean plastic reported since 2005. So they're saying that more than 170 trillion plastic particles have been found in the ocean as pollution reaches an unprecedented level. So that is not good for the ocean. It's not good for the fish and the other things that we eat out in the ocean and everything. So anybody concerned about the folks, the tons of folks around the world are going and, just grabbing their plastic bottles and
Mark, I think you were being polite when you said unintended consequences. Unintended means they were not aware of the consequences before they made the decision. These consequences they were aware of, they weighed them and they said, to hell with it. It's worth it for them to have this litter problem. Climate's not that important. We got COVID to solve. Let's put on worthless masks. We know they're going to go in the garbage. We know they're going to go in the oceans. We don't care. We want them on the faces.
Yeah, we don't care. They're not effective. We know that.
Yeah.
The bottles in New York City, I guess a lot of places, nickel deposit, because they want people to return the bottles. For, that's a different story. Why don't they, if they didn't want people to litter, they would put nickel deposits on masks. They chose not to. That would have solved the problem.
Well, y'all were also talking and giving some grief to Biden. Not saying he doesn't deserve the grief, but apparently on Twitter, there's been a lot of grief lately due to his wife, because apparently she called for men to listen and act in their fight for women's rights on Women's Day yesterday. So she called on men to support women fighting for their rights, no matter what those rights are, and all in that space. So definitely, they were also given the International Women of Courage Awards at a White House ceremony. But definitely, that is one of the things that she was saying. She was also telling the ladies to up their game as well. So,
well, we have someone in the Supreme Court who doesn't know what a woman is. How do we have Women's Day? It makes no sense. The two are mutually exclusive. You can't not know what the definition is and have a day to celebrate something when we don't know what it is. I'm at a loss. Help me on this, Mark.
We used to know what it meant.
We used to know what it was.
God knows what it means.
Well, I mean,
How do we say that with a straight face? Celebrate women. And say, what is a woman? I don't know. Little Johnny doesn't learn it in school.
Most people know what a woman is. I think most people know what a man is.
But when you have these brilliant people.
But there are definitions that are being, and Dan, you might not agree with it, but they were even in the biblical times as well. There were folks that were in kind of that in-between state, whether you want to call them eunuchs or whether you want to call them...
Well, they had their nuts cut off because they were in charge of the harems, and they got denuded because they didn't want them to be screwing around with the women.
They were called eunuchs, and they still are eunuchs today.
They were eunuchs.
They're eunuchs today, right. And there are people that have different orientations and different other kinds of things that they choose to identify as. And we can't say, I heard somebody make his joke about the reindeer and the reindeers having two genders, but I want to say, and I could say it's been a minute since I've had a biology course, but I do want to say that there are some species that have more than the just standard male and female.
Yeah, but that's not Homo sapien. I mean, there are only two genders. There are some issues medically with some people who get messed up. It's a very, very, very small percentage.
The hermaphrodites. And they're
exactly.
Very rare, Dan.
Very rare. And when that happens,
at the end of the day, they actually can determine whether the chromosomes are men or women. And there's a difference because of the chromosomes. I mean, it's pretty clear.
The rest of it's in their head.
Yeah, right.
Well, Nick, you just made a really good point. Chromosome, that's something you could test for and you could see.
You can test for it. Absolutely, you can test for it.
Right.
And so what happened recently, there was a women's basketball team, and another team came in bringing some transgender people in there, and they walked out, and frankly, rightfully so. In other words, because the men...
That should be more common.
Yeah, it should be more common. In other words, if my granddaughters go and they play a basketball, and a bunch of guys or men who say they're women or whatever the heck it is walk in. Now, my girls are pretty tough, so they'll probably play them anyway. But they also have completely the right just to walk out. You know,
you've got the right to walk out, but you've also got women that want to get involved in male sports and historically male sports.
That's a different issue. Totally different issue.
If they want to, and they're good at
the two.
If they can handle
it's
their
really
own.
Simple. Forget it. Okay. So the thing is, if and I have one of my cousins. Remember, I had like 2,000 relatives and 75 first cousins on one side, 110 on another. One of them is actually transgender. Okay. Mm-hmm. But now he or she is older. If he or she said, hey, I'm going to go play, I think I'm going to play women's sports because I identify as a woman, I'd say, forget it. It would be real simple. Out you go. Too bad. So sad. And you can complain all you want to about and I'll bring out the violins that you're transgender. I mean, but forget it. That's not a fair.
There are consequences of choices.
Yeah, right. That's your choice, and that's not fair to the other party. So the other party certainly walked out, and frankly, rightfully so.
But what do you say to those folks
like
that say that?
If I was coach of a team and they did that to me, I would walk out.
No, I got what you're saying, but what do you say to those folks that make the argument? I've heard the argument because I do have friends in that space that it is environmental and not hereditary, or hereditary and not environmental with the orientations that they are.
It doesn't matter. Your DNA
still in their heads. Here's the thing, Mark.
No matter what you say, no matter what you think, your DNA says different.
I'm not talking about the transition. I'm talking about like their orientations, which is part of the conversation as well.
Mark, we have a thing called biology.
Unfortunately, there's a thing called biology, and unfortunately,
biology does not always impact orientation.
I knew him when he was
but that's still a choice.
Now he's a her. Okay?
Orientation's a choice. Biology's not.
Whether he likes it or not, his DNA is still like him, and that's just the way it is. I can't change that. Yeah, and frankly, he can't change it either. We don't have the science to change it. So if she says, I'm going to go compete in women's sports, I would say no.
You said we don't have
It's
the
not
science
fair
to
to the
change it,
women.
but science is constantly changing, whether we like it or not. And there are some people that would argue that if Dan decides he wants to be a woman, that he can have an entire operation that can give him all the body parts and all the
Won't
other
happen.
thing else of the woman, if that's
That
what he
never,
opts to do.
okay, it's all fake, people. Will not happen. His
Dan,
DNA.
Mark, can a
DNA is
14-year-old identify as 21 and buy liquor?
Sorry, it's
Say
too
what?
bad. Too
That's-
bad.
Can a
that's an age
14-year-old identify as 21 and go buy liquor?
That's age. That's a whole different conversation.
Why is that? Why is that
Yeah,
different?
but why
is
is
that
it
different in
different?
biology
No,
than
no,
genitals?
You know, it's.
But I'm
it's
saying
basic
biology
science.
is- but
You know, the thing is, I wish, and see, this is the back to our education. I wish that our educational system would teach basic science, okay, and medical books. The Merck Manual, which is really great. How many people have read the Merck Manual? I read it when I was a bloody kid. Okay, the Merck Manual should be part of every person's study. I had books on
Nick,
diseases.
Nick, but if you
on
teach,
abnormal
the whole thing, if you teach
We don't
basic
teach our
biology,
kids
there
this.
are
So they're making
Which-
up myths. They're making up myths when they get later on in life that I'm now a woman. Okay, no,
But
no,
if
no,
you
no.
teach
It'll
basic
never happen.
biology, there's whole conversations around that. Because I remember there was a very famous book called My Body, Myself. And when I was a teenager, my mom got in a whole lot of trouble because she decided that she wanted to give that book to my girl cousins, because she wanted them to know what they were facing as women in life and everything. And my uncle, who's very conservative, was not overly pleased at that choice.
How old
of
were they,
a-
Mark? How old were they
They
at the time?
They were teenagers. They were
12 or 19?
They were like, I won't say 12 or 13.
Which is on the young side. That's on the young side.
Yeah, and I don't know the exact age. I just
Mark?
remember
There are people coming out now identifying as animals, cats, and different things. Do you take this seriously?
I mean, there are
Babies.
people that
There's a
identify as
whole element
Martians,
of the
but is
left
that their?
that
But
was
is that
taken
not their
seriously.
prerogative? I mean,
There-
yeah, there are people that identify as whatever they want to, and yes, there's a whole movement called the furries. They literally drop around
Right.
and travel as rabbits and everything. But that is a whole
But
movement.
what is
out there.
amazing
But
about them
that
is
isn't- but that is an orientation argument, because, like I said,
No, that's a
Yeah, Mark,
choice.
that is the whole
fine.
French conversation.
They identify
That's
as
a
these
choice.
animals, but yet they wear clothes as if they're a human. I don't understand what's going on. They
They're
half
bored.
human, half
There's
animal.
nothing going on. There's another book. Okay, I don't know if you ever read DSM-4, DSM-5. Now they have Diagnostic Statistical Manual dealing with psychology, and there's a whole area called abnormal psychology. Go read DSM-4, 5, and look at abnormal psychology. That's what you're dealing with, Lee.
No, like,
Yeah. Again,
But,
and by the way, DSM-4 and 5, you can buy in your. We can
These
almost
people
buy
are
it on
mentally
Amazon.
ill.
But you could actually teach kids this,
there are
and they
some
would
people. Wait a
understand
minute. There are some people that would
abnormal
argue that
psychology. And what,
but
what's
there's some
happening
people
is
that
the
would
left.
argue that
They do when adults teach it like that.
Hold on a second, but there's
Kids
a-
understand anorexic.
It's not normal.
No, but there are
Abnormal psychology is
anorexic
not
people don't
normal.
always understand. There's a number of other things that people don't understand. There are some people out there that would argue, and I'm not saying that they're right, because I
You can argue
actually have
all
some
you
friends
want.
that
It's not
practice the lifestyle and everything. But there's some people that are out there that would argue that a lifestyle that was very popular, and yes, I'm gonna pick on you, Nick and Dan, in the Mormon Church, is also abnormal. Because there are some people that would say that the whole
Polygamy?
notion of polygamy is not
talking
a
about
normal
polygamy,
kind of
right.
concept, but that is something that was
But-
practiced and is
The,
practiced.
But if you actually look at polygamy and you go back in the Bible, and actually even look at cultures around the world, there's a lot of polygamous relationships in other
that's
countries that exist today, existed throughout the Bible. Yet the weird thing is that's illegal and gay marriage is. Show me how
But
that.
there
Oh,
are
that's weird.
there are relationships that some people would imply are out of the gay and other cultures that are in the Bible as well. Like I said, I
Well,
wasn't there
well,
back during those times, and I'm
You're
not
talking
sure.
about Sodom and Gomorrah?
I'm waiting for this case to go to the Supreme Court of the United States. Talk to me why gay marriage is okay and polygamous relationships are not.
But like I said, it'll be interesting to see. And like I said, I've
It
got some
hasn't come
friends,
before the
including
Supreme
some
Court
that are
until eventually.
locally here that are in the middle of those relationships. And like I said, that's known but not known in all in that space, because if it was totally put out there, they would be possibly arrested. But I do know some people that are in that lifestyle, even here in the fine state of North Carolina. But
You're kidding.
Still mental illness.
I thought it was always Utah and
no, there's some people that practice it here as well.
But
I know
still,
we're going to
that
wind
would
down
be-
because we
that
got to
would
get
be
to
abnormal.
Wynn's show and we got to get to Barbara's show as
yeah.
well. But I was going to say that apparently a country that gets in a lot of trouble for other reasons as in the news because they actually stopped a heist, and that would be the notoriously corrupt country of Chile. But apparently, Chile airport authorities filed a $32.5 million heist amid an intense exchange of gunfire. So they were saying that it looked like a Hollywood scene, but it happened in Santiago. 2 were killed. Unfortunately, maybe that was the people that were committing the heist. So in that case, it wouldn't be unfortunate all that much. But definitely, they stopped a $32.5 million heist. I'm sure this is going to be turned into a movie and everything, but they did do that in the lovely country of Chile.
Was it racist?
I don't know. I don't know who was involved, and I don't know who else was involved. And like I said, Chile's got its own issues and everything else. So I don't know who the robbers were. So I couldn't tell you whether it was racist or classes. I mean, I think it was probably definitely classes because they might have been doing the Robin Hood for all I know. They might have been trying to rob from the rich.
Red Hot
I just want to add one thing to the conversation we had before. Your biology doesn't change. Your gender doesn't change. Okay, your age does. So there's a stronger argument to be made that you can identify as a different age, but not as a different gender, because your age is going to change anyways.
But the question I was asking, which people argue is either hereditary or environmental, is orientation. That's what I was arguing, because there are some people that would argue that they didn't have any choice in their
And Mark, what I would tell you in that is, what's physical, you can touch, you can see, you can test.
Right.
That's not a choice. What your behavior is a choice, regardless of cultural or environmental. That's a choice. You can think about things all the time. You can think about robbing the bank, making murder, or whatever. You fill in the blank. That's not illegal, and you can't necessarily control your thoughts. You can control your behavior, though. That woman there, I'm not going to rob her. That bank, I'm not going to rob. That person, I'm not going to murder. That lady, I'm not going to rape. Those are choices you can make. But you can make bad choices too, and you'll be responsible for those.
I'm not going to wear a diaper.
I'm asking, and I don't know the answer because I'd have to ask my friends that decided to go in that lifestyle. It was not my choice. I decided to live the heterosexual life and everything. But
Mark, as humans, we want to say, myself included, Mark, as humans, we want to justify our choices and say, you know what? I didn't have a choice. But at the end of the day, let's be honest with ourselves. You got out of bed, you chose your behavior before you laid down that night. There is stuff that kind of happens to you, accidents or things that you had no control over, but why were you there when you were there? The wrong place, the wrong time, or why did at the end of the day,
like I said, I'm not making
the argument that
I've heard is that the people that are particularly in the gay and lesbian community will tell you that they one, knew that they were going to be in that lifestyle much earlier in their life, like when they were young kids and everything, and two, that was something that was inherited in them at birth. That's what I mean when I said,
well, it's still a choice.
Mark, that can be discussed, okay? But let's say for me, okay, I'm attracted to women. I came out of the closet years ago. Very attracted to women, okay? I see a woman on the street. I'm not going to go and do things with her that I shouldn't be doing with her, even though I may be attracted to her. She's not my wife.
Choice.
Well, I mean, that's
a choice I'm making. And when I was in college in the dorms, I chose not to do behaviors that other people chose to do, which has nothing to do with heterosexual or gay. People made choices. A lot of them made bad choices.
No,
those are choices they made, whether it's behavior, whether it's drugs, whether it's sex, what have you.
Well,
those are choices they made.
The only thing I was going to bring up, and we can talk about this on tomorrow as well, is there is a very infamous, and it was actually discussed on one of our other shows, infamous video. It is a video actually of an African-American male. It's all over YouTube and everything, but he was actually making the same argument that you made, which is that he has 7 children by 7 different women, and he said that in that relationship, he went into the relationship telling those women that he didn't want any kids. So his whole argument is, why should he be responsible for those kids when he told them up front that he didn't want any kids?
Mark, he wasn't being honest. He wasn't being totally honest, because he knew if he didn't want any kids, there was something he could not do to not have kids. And he chose to do that behavior that very frequently leads to kids.
Yeah, and like I said, I might bring the video up. He brought that up, and everything was in his video, and he did say that his argument was that why should he be responsible for it? And he even said, then that's a whole other can of worms and everything, that he even offered to give them the money for the abortion and everything, but that they chose to have the kids, and why should he be responsible for having the?
But for those who are pro-abortion, there's a strong argument to be made. Why can't the guy just give up all rights and say, I don't want that kid, I want it aborted? If you choose to have it, it's on you, not on me, and I'm not going to give you a dime for it.
And that
just
was
walk away.
We're running over, and we got to fit this in the hour time.
Still has a responsibility.
that was
Right.
actually his argument and everything. So get ready to get out of here, and actually we got to get to
Oh yeah, party pooper Nick.
Show and others.
Sorry.
Every party needs one.
It has to fit in this time slot. 5 times.
Thank
So
you,
right now, let's
everyone.
get on out of here.
Okay.
God.
Nick.